Welcome to the ClearPath ePortal Developer 4.1 Capabilities demonstration. This video is part of a series of videos which explain the steps to develop different types of data sources and presentation projects in ePortal Developer for modernizing ClearPath applications. In this demonstration, we will show you how to simplify a web services project using message orchestration. In MCP T27 Web Service Presentation Project video, you will notice that ePortal generates a web service method for each client message in the T27 data source project. Because setting require last reply as next request in T27 data source project is set to true by default, the last message sent to the client is the next message received from the client. This mimics web page from submission, and the web service methods are called in the correct order to do an eBank operation. Instead of manually invoking separate web service methods to submit each screen to the server application, we can create new client messages and use orchestration to perform these multiple calls to the server application automatically for each web service method call. Let's get started. We have already loaded the MCP T27 data source and web service presentation projects in the Visual Studio IDE. Now, let's create two new client messages: get accounts and do transfer to represent the simplified web service methods. In ePortal message window, right-click on the Client Messages node and click New. Enter Get Accounts as name of the client message and click OK. The Get Accounts client message just displays the account details, so no fields are required for this message. Similarly, we will create another client message, Do Transfer. The Do Transfer message is used to do the fund transfer, so it requires fields to enter details. Double-click Do Transfer client message to open it for editing. Expand the client message Transfer Funds. Drag and drop the field From onto the root of the message Do Transfer. Similarly, drag the fields To, Amount, Recurring Transfer, Frequency, and Email Confirmation. Let's save the changes. Now we have all the messages to perform the message orchestration. Open the orchestration window. The OnClient Session Start node is an event handler which runs when the application first starts. Under its Start node, you can see that a connection activity is already added by default. Before we proceed further, let's change an orchestration setting so that messages sent and received from the client can be in any order. Click on the Root node in Orchestration window, and in its Properties window, set the value of Require Last Reply as Next Request to False. Now, drag the client message Get Accounts onto the root node of the orchestration. This will create an OnClient.getAccounts node. The OnClient.getAccounts node is an event handler which runs when the user invokes the sendGetAccounts web method. We will add the actions under its Start node and specify the order in which the screens should be transmitted to the server application to get account details. From the toolbox, we will drag the Communicate activity, Invoke Server, on the Start node under OnClient.getAccounts. In its Properties window, select Perform Action from the Send drop-down box. This will cause Perform Action screen to be transmitted to the server. Then, select the Accounts from the Receive drop-down box. Accounts is the message received from the server. Now, we need to specify field values for message perform action. Click on the Collection Browse button for property message data. For choice field, select the Assign From value to literal. Enter the data value as 1. 1 is the choice value for getting account details. Leave the Assign From values as none for all of the other fields and click OK. Now, we will transmit the Accounts screen to the server and receive Perform Action screen in response. Drag Invoke Server again onto the Start node under OnClient.getAccounts. In its Properties window, select Accounts from the Send drop-down box. Then, select Perform Action from the Receive drop-down box. After the execution of this step, the server application will be ready to receive Perform Action screen to do other eBank operations based on the choice value. Now, we need to orchestrate to return the accounts screen to the client. Drag the client message accounts onto the Start node under onClient.getAccounts. This creates a reply action to return the accounts screen. We will set the accounts client message fields from the accounts server message. Click the Collection Browse button for property message data. Click the upper left corner of the list to select all items. Then, right-click and select Change Assign Type Value as From Variable. Notice that ePortal developer correctly guesses the field values from the accounts server message variables. Then click OK. Next, we will do the orchestration for doTransfer client message. Drag the client message doTransfer onto the root node of the orchestration. This will create an onClient.doTransfer node. The onClient.doTransfer node is an event handler which runs when the user invokes the send-doTransfer web method. We will add the actions under its start node and specify the order in which the screens should be transmitted to the server to do the fund transfer. From the toolbox window, we will drag invoke server on the start node under onClient.doTransfer. In its properties window, select Perform Action from the Send drop-down box. Then, select the Transfer Funds from the Receive drop-down box. Click on the Collection Browse button for property message data. It will open the Assign Data window. For choice field, select the Assign From value to literal. Enter the data value as 2. 2 is the choice value for doing the fund transfer. Leave the Assign From values as none for all of the other fields. Click OK. Now, we will transmit the transfer fund screen to the server. Drag the Communicate activity, Invoke Server, again onto the Start node under onClient.doTransfer. In its Properties window, select Transfer Funds from the Send drop-down box. Notice the awk.message for Receive drop-down box. Awk.message represents any message received from the server. Note that if the fund transfer request was valid, the server returns the confirmation message. Otherwise, it can return an error or any exception message. Now, we will map the transfer funds server message field's value from doTransfer client message. Click the Collection Browse button for property message data. Select the fields from, to, amount, recurring transfer, frequency, and email confirmation. Then, right-click and select Change Assign Type Value as From Variable. Notice that ePortal developer correctly guesses the field values from doTransfer client message. Click OK. Now, we will configure the pick message activity based on the type of awk.message returned from the server. Let's drag the pick message activity on the Start node under onClient.doTransfer. This will create a pick orc.message node. Now, drag isMessage onto the pick orc.message node. In its Properties window, select Confirmation from the Message drop-down box. Now, we will configure to transmit the confirmation screen to the server application and get back the Perform Action screen. Drag Invoke Server again onto the isMessage node under pick orc.message. In its Properties window, select Confirmation from the Send drop-down box. Then, select the Perform Action from the Receive drop-down box. Now, drag the client message confirmation onto the isMessage node under pick orc.message. This creates a reply action to return the confirmation client message to the user. Now, we will set the message data returned from the server application into the confirmation client message. Click the Collection Browse button for property message data. Select Change Assign Type Value as From Variable for all the variables. Notice that ePortal developer correctly guesses the field values from the confirmation server message. Then click OK. Let's save all the changes. Here we have shown configuration for only confirmation message type in orc.message. If we had an error client message in the data source, similarly we can use a second isMessage to configure for error message received from the server application. Let's build a project by choosing Build Solution. Then select the menu option Debug, Start Debugging to run the WCF test client again. Let's test the simplified web service methods. First, we need to enable cookies. Right-click on Config file and select Edit with SVC Config Editor to open Service Configuration Editor window. Expand the Bindings folder and select Service Binding and set the Allow Cookies option to True. Then save this change. Now, first we need to establish a session with the server. In WCF Test Client window, double-click the Connect and then click Invoke. Server returns the logon response in the response section. Next, double-click the Send Logon web method. We need to enter a valid user code and password value in the login web method. In our case, it is webdev. Click the Invoke button to log in. In WCF Test Client window, double-click Send Get Accounts and click the Invoke button. The response section displays the account details. Similarly, double-click on the Send Do Transfer web method. Let's enter the fund transfer details. From as 1, which is interest checking account ID, to as 2, which is money market account ID, and amount is 2000. We will leave the optional fields null. Click on the Invoke button to do the fund transfer. If the fund transfer request is valid, then the confirmation response appears in the response pane. We can see that using orchestration, we can make the web service method invocation simpler and easy. This completes the demonstration. Unisys offers a comprehensive set of ClearPath services to enrich the value of your ClearPath applications, data and systems. Please contact your Unisys representative for more information.